One, two, three.
Headstrong, try to tell you I'm wrong, but I've waited too long.
Well, it's Chords and Coffee, and today I've got what you've been looking for. I know a lot of folks are out there and you listen to some of this great music that was made a little while ago. I'm talking about that wonderful era in the 70s, early 80s where you had bands like Boston and ELO and Supertramp and even like up until like the era of where you had Extreme and Rush. And a lot of you out there listen to that and go, where is that music today? You're looking for the Moon City Masters, friends. This is a band that I stumbled upon kind of in two different directions. One from LSL and my buddy Johnny at LSL, but also just scrolling through Instagram, you see these guys, and look, these guys are full of joy. They're two good-looking dudes that are amazing musicians. I know a lot of y'all are like, well, I hate them already. But I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna love them. This is Taylor and Jordan of the Moon City Masters. We're gonna talk about their music. We're gonna talk about a little bit of probably the state of modern music, and also I want to get into just some of their tunes. So without further ado, Taylor, Jordan, say hello to Chords and Coffee.
Hello, Chords and Coffee! And thank you for that wonderful introduction, Nate.
Yeah, kind of, when you're comparing us to all those bands, I feel like I need like a turtle shell to sink into.
Well, no, you guys are awesome. And, you know, I started listening to your latest EP, and there was a song that really stuck out to me on there, and it was Keep Dreaming. That song, first of all, the production on it is really cool. Like when I heard that cross stick with all the reverb, right? That I was just like, that's really cool. And it sounds like you're playing it with the capo. I would love for you to talk about the chords on the verse, but also that riff. That riff to me, like when I heard that, the tone is kind of classic rock tone. So that tune, first of all, one of the things I love about your music that is, it's a little absent from a lot of the music today, is that you got a lot of chords, you got a lot of parts, there's a lot of cool riffs. And I would love for you to talk about the opening riff to that, but then also the that B section before you go to the chorus where it's like a B flat over C, C, F minor. Yeah, so if you just walk us through that, and then we'll get into like how you got into music and some other cool stuff here in a second.
These are my two main squeezes, my Heritage 535 and my LSL Thin Bone.
That's awesome. That Heritage is that's not a normal color that Heritage does.
I had a company called MJT refinish it.
Okay, yeah. You're talking about MJT in Missouri?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in Carthage, Missouri. Yeah, I know. Yeah, absolutely. That's cool.
And we did the Rock Boat back in January, and we go on there, and one of the guys from one of the other bands knew the guy that painted my guitar, so I took a picture with him. So this is like, I've been playing this one for a while, and I put these pickups from a company called Righteous Sound in them. It's like a wide range of a P90. Either way, that's a whole other thing. But anyway, so I played it. So with this song, I write a lot. We write a lot of the music together, but a lot of times with riffs, I use capos because if I ever just am feeling writer's block, capos kind of give me like that. They give me that, like, it feels like a new instrument I magically already know how to play. So it kind of breaks things up for me, you know?
No, I totally agree with that. In fact, I did a whole episode on, it was called Confessions of a Former Capo Snob. Capo! All right, so first things first, let's look at three different types of capos. You got the old Kaiser capo. Nothing wrong with this. Because I feel like there was a time in my life where I was like, I don't need a capo, but then it's a really great writing tool. So yeah, keep going.
My father-in-law, who's like a straight-ahead jazz guitar player, he's like, you don't need that. And I'm like, well, I'm a bad jazz. I'm a rock guitar player that remembers 30% of what I learned in jazz guitar lessons. So the riff is real simple. It kind of reminds me, speaking of like that Eddie Van Halen thing, it kind of reminds me of those open strings of Summer Nights.
Oh yeah.
You know that?
With a little bit of a reminiscent of the Mario Brothers underground level.
Love it.
And you do that B flat major 7. I guess it'd be a G major 7 with the capo. It's a B flat major 7. I still, even with the capo, I call the chords by their actual names and keys they're in. And then the verse is just that sus to A. I call it A minor 7, B flat. And then it's a D, or the D at the F sharp, so the F, so an F major with the 3rd in the bass. Then back to the A.
Yeah, so when I was trying to figure that out, can you hear that?
Yeah. I love that.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I alternate when I get to that F with the 3rd in the bass. Every other I go to do it up an octave. So
that's cool.
and that guitar tone, we were like, we want that 80s like 90125 tone.
Yeah.
We wanted like
I know what you're talking about.
Mid late 70s distorted tones, and then like 90125 like clean tones on the song.
Get to that pre-chorus section.
Oh yeah, that part is just it's like a B flat with a C in the bass.
Yeah, that part, that to me reminded me of "Hold your head up," like that kind of thing, right?
So it's like you got that A, so you got that B flat with the C in the bass. So a C sus back to a C, back to a, and then I'm looking at it as an A flat with the C in the bass, and an A flat major. But you can look at it as an F minor, same thing. A B flat, back to C.
Yeah. So.
And you could do it, and obviously you could do it without the capo.
Yeah, dude, that's so cool.
Habit of the songs that I sing, we always try to split our lead vocals about, honestly, we sing lead, because Jordan writes all the lyrics. And along with co-writing the music, he writes the lyrics. But we always pick our songs as singers, because our voices there's some differences, but it's just similar. It's
mostly the same.
It's like, which is harder for me to sing and play.
Yeah,
and usually we try to take the songs that are the easiest for us to sing and play, but this one was the hardest for me to sing and play, not because the range, because I'm just doing all this chordal stuff, like. And we love funk and Motown, so we always try to bring a little bit of that into our song and our rhythmically.
No, I love that. So, okay, so if you're just tuning in, or maybe you're watching this and you're going, are those guys related? Yes. So you guys are twins, and where are you from? And tell us about your background really quick. And one thing I want to circle back to is you talked about, before the interview started, we just had just a quick small talk, but you talked about playing covers, and I want to circle back. But fast forward us a little bit and tell us how you got started playing music and just a little bit of your background, because folks would love to know.
Well, how we got started playing music, I guess I'll start with our background. We are identical twins. We are 2 of 5 children. We are from New York, but not the city, a little bit upstate, a place called Westchester County. And I guess we got into music. Our mom played like piano for us a little bit, but our dad was just like a guy of like this, like, he went to Woodstock. He sang in bands in the era when New York was like
the place. Like, saw Jimi Hendrix do a free concert in Central Park.
He ended up in an elevator actually with Hendrix.
That's amazing.
Janis Joplin stole his date one time.
Did that?
I think he told me something like that. He was in a bar with like 3 members of Zeppelin and Janis Joplin and some.
That's great. I love it.
So your dad was like one of the cats.
Yeah,
he was just a cool guy in the scene, and he knew the places to hang. It's New York. The apartment's going to be so nice.
So he would just play us all, so right from the beginning, we're growing up on like the Beatles, the Stones, Zeppelin, the Allman Brothers, and this music was just amazing. It was something that was very important to us. Even before we like thought about, we should be musicians, we should be any of that. This music was just something, was a big part of like, our lives. It was very important to us. Our dad would like be blasting it in the car and be like, "You like this?" And we did, and we'd sing along, and then at some point around like 10 or 11, our older brother made us a mix CD, and it opened the world of like hard rock, metal. There was
Van Halen,
Ozzy Osbourne, Guns N' Roses, that kind of stuff. But there was also Jimi Hendrix on there, and Voodoo Child. I'm a bass player. Went on to be a bass player, but at this point, Jimi Hendrix Voodoo Child was the craziest thing I'd ever heard in my whole life. It really felt like you're having a psychedelic experience. I remember being a kid, and it's just like,
with your headphones in, and just like how it pans, and it was like, oh my god,
yes.
This is so. But still, that's kind of what got us like 10 years old when we got obsessed with like listening to music. Didn't even think about playing. Didn't think that was possible. Our older brother Zach is a huge Red Hot Chili Peppers fan, and they were playing Jones Beach, and our dad took all of us to go see the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And that was our first concert,
wow.
And that's like kind of like the light bulb moment. Oh wait, we should try playing. So the next day we asked our dad for guitars, and then a few months later Jordan switched to the bass because he thought Flea was playing a guitar, didn't even realize what a bass was. And he's like, oh wait, that big guitar is a bass. So we got a bass, and it's just been kind of like. Once seeing live music, that was like the light. Like I think we were 12.
It was like, oh, this could be. We used to at this point we were already like we were young kids, and we were already like pretending that we were like in bands sometimes. Like we were like music was like our favorite thing. But at this point, it was like seeing it. It was like it kind of made it real. It kind of made it like, oh. Yeah. This is something people can do. It's not just like this magical thing that probably comes from the sky, which is what I kind of thought of Jimmy.
We looked at it as like before seeing it live, it was like that's like being an astronaut. You can't do that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then seeing it in person, it's still really. It's like it just made it go. Wait, we should try. I didn't even think about trying to play the guitar. But seeing it, John Frusciante live, I was like.
I didn't think about doing anything except playing my video games.
I want to do that.
Yeah.
So we asked our dad for guitars, and I think it was the first time we ever went to him about money, asking to buy something that wasn't a video game, and he's like, yeah, because
we
tried putting us in sports. We didn't take to it.
We were painfully shy.
Surprisingly, I think music made us much more extroverted and confident.
Yeah.
And it's just, it made us, I came out of my shell way later, and it's because of guitar.
Yeah. You know what's interesting? I hope that there is some dad or some mom or somebody who has the wherewithal and the capacity to bless some kid with music watching this right now. Because there's two things you guys said that I think is really powerful that should be a takeaway from this video. One, there's something to be said for when a musician actually learns to love music first, as opposed to loving the idea of standing up in front of people playing music. I'm not saying that's necessarily a horrible thing, but I am saying this. When I listened to your music, the first thing that struck me when I was listening to it, I'd seen some stuff on Instagram, little snippets, but I hadn't sat down and listened to it and kind of taken it in. The first thing that struck me was, man, these guys are a killer live band. I guarantee it, because the way that it was recorded, it felt like this record is a setup for what you would expect to see live, because just how the songs evolved. And that comes from a love of music. That comes from, you're not just trying to man, how can we write I know you're thinking about commercial success, as you should, because at some point,
we could more.
We could more. We could play, if we were really thinking that deeply about that, we probably wouldn't be playing the kind of music we play.
Well, let me say it this way. Obviously, there is a balance that has to happen between the passion and just having a living doing this. But on the other hand, I just wanted to say, I hope that somebody watching this goes, man, I want to maybe encourage my kid to turn off their video games and just listen to music. You talked about Voodoo Child. I remember being in the basement of my house as a kid growing up, and I somehow convinced my mom and dad to get me a wah pedal. And I remember my mom coming downstairs and saying to me, I don't care what you play, but you got to play something else. Because I was just trying to play that opening lick to Voodoo Child for hours. You know what I mean? And trying to get the feel right. Because early on, I I didn't know what it was, but I was aware of touch. And I was aware.
That makes a lot of sense to me in the way you play guitar.
Yeah, because you have such a nice touch.
Yeah.
And that,
Oh,
those
thank you.
little subtleties. I was a sprinter. I was like that kind of person that like the technical things came real fast, but those little details that actually make you play like a big boy came later.
Oh my God.
Like
this guy.
my brother-in-law Justin, who produces us, it's like you. He's just got. He's not gonna play. He's a different player than you, but he's kind of like one of those players that he's not gonna play anything you can't play. He's just gonna play it better and nicer than you. He's got this beautiful touch.
It's true.
Like he plays an acoustic. I'm like, that is so. He's like a Mike. He's like a Mike Campbell clone.
He can
on
strum
guitar.
2 chords, and you're like, it's like he's just got a really nice feel. He's got the nicest right hand.
Well, and you know what's interesting is that going back to this love of music first. That, and then also, like, I love how you said, you know, up until seeing, you know, the Chili Peppers live, you know, music was sort of this unattainable astronaut level, you know, concept as far as being able to do it. But then at 10, deciding this is what I want to do. And then kudos to your dad for being like, yeah, this is great. We're going to do this and investing. So I hope somebody watching this, it's just so important that we encourage kids to play music and also encourage kids to really listen to music. So with that, maybe if you don't mind, I would love just to, how do you guys go about writing songs? And specifically, you know, Jordan, a lot of your bass lines, like even on the song we were just looking at, but on a lot of them, dude, you're busy. And I mean that in a good way. I mean, you are James Jamerson in it, right? Whilst singing.
Well, that's my number one.
I know he's incredible like
stop
that.
Stop it.
I introduced him as my stunt double live.
Well, that's my main dude, and but actually, who edges out Jamerson just a bit for me is Chuck Rainey. Chuck Rainey, and not because and Chuck's amazing, but Jamerson is still the best. But Chuck Rainey plays to me. He's got his own characteristics, but he is the evolution of that style.
So for anybody watching this who may not be familiar with James Jamerson and Chuck Rainey, could you like maybe walk them through
James
some
Jamerson
references?
is the guy that you hear on a lot of those Motown classics. If you listen to like I Was Made to Love Her, Stevie Wonder, What's Going On, Marvin Gaye, Ain't No Mountain High Enough, a lot of those kinds of songs. And then Chuck Rainey is the guy that you hear on like Aretha Franklin's Rock Steady, or you hear on Steely Dan, a lot of Asia, like Black Cow, or Peg. Peg's the most popular one, you know?
You also love Anthony Jackson.
I love Anthony Jackson quite a bit. You know, there's a lot of other bass players that I love too, like Paul McCartney, and I love, for a very different thing, I love Geddy Lee and Chris Squire.
Well,
but as I've gotten older, and I liked those guys going back to Chuck Rainey represents personality. Like I like the session musicians a lot that they don't sound like it could have been anybody. They do have a personality. They do have like their things. And Chuck Rainey, even in an interview, he said, I don't remember the exact number he said, is that all the great musicians have like 3 things they do, and they just can make it work over a lot of different things. And Chuck Rainey to me is my absolute hero. And what I get from him and then what I get from Jamerson and then Geddy Lee is that it's not that I'm trying to play busy. It's just that we recently have a keyboard player in the band.
Oh, that's cool.
But up until recently, it was power trio, and Jordan and I write all the music by ourselves, and we weren't the most social butterfly kids growing up, so we didn't play the hit. We never played the music that was the most in at the time for other. So it was just me and Jordan most of the time. And
well, that's a different thing.
Well, but a lot of our playing with the busy stuff and like like we both took jazz lessons, and I just wanted to learn how to play bigger voice. And we're trying to make as much sound out of just 2 of us.
Yeah. Like
that's a lot of our playing comes from just trying to make a lot of sound with just 2 people.
It's just about trying to create a lot of music, really fill out the song. If we were like a 5-piece band, maybe I wouldn't play like that, you know? Maybe I...
Oh, dude, make no mistake, I love it. And I love a power trio. Like, to me, like, if somebody said, Nate, what's one of your favorite configurations to play in? A power trio, and then a very close second would be adding a keyboard, just like what you guys did to that, because everybody still kind of has enough space to kind of sprawl out a little bit.
And it makes me play so much more relaxed.
Yeah.
Once we move to the keyboard, and we've only done it for a few gigs now, it's like, man, I can just sit back a little easier now.
I like it better too. I feel like I can relax a little bit more. I feel like when we're doing, because live we're very much a jam band, and we really like to improv and really extend things. And I feel like I'm not trying so hard anymore to like fill up the sound when he's ripping a solo. You know, I can kind of just focus in on locking in and you know, be a little bit more supportive, which I really quite like a lot.
But a lot of your, like a lot of the stuff, like even before you discovered like the Motown and like Chuck, all that stuff, and like the soul music and funk, you loved Geezer Butler and Jack Bruce, and you loved bass players that made a lot of
music.
They were just a big part of it, and that's, you know, even like Andy Fraser from Free, like that's just kind of where we come from in like in the term of playing. It's guitar and bass, and the bass is a rhythmic instrument too, but it's color. It's putting a lot of color over what the guitar's doing.
Yeah.
So when you guys are writing, are you sitting there with a guitar and bass, or Taylor, are you showing up with a riff, or how does this work?
We both show up with riffs. Like I very much write on bass, and he writes and here you lead.
Oh, sure. We're always, because me and him can talk, so we're always like, let's not go. We're like trying.
We talk over each other all the time, so we're just trying
to make it not annoying for the listeners. But a lot of it, it's a little bit of both. You know, a lot of it is like, I'll just like. With riff writing, if we're not, a lot of times we'll just jam and improvise together. When we just sit down, every time we meet up, we improvise for a long time and just free flowing improvising, and it'll come from that. Or a lot of times I just sit on the couch and play riffs, and he does the same thing on bass, and we'll just like send each other, oh my God, I wrote this thing, and we'll send each other, and then we bring it together. And a lot of times like, oh my God, that thing goes well with this thing. And it's just a lot of improvising and maybe coming in with one riff, and like it instantly inspires one of us to either, it's very first music driven, guitar and bass driven, and then the songs that you hear are like, hey, could we come up with a melody to it, you know?
Yeah, if a melody came very quick to it, then we finished it. You know, like if some, and I don't know what that is, but there are songs that a melody is something that's very easy to write. I'm a real believer that melodies need to be simple and catchy and rhythmic.
Yeah.
And I really like that. And when I can do that over a piece of music, then that's what we end up keeping.
Yeah, but
you know, I got to say this really quick too. It is hard to write songs that are positive, and you guys have a lot of positive. Here's what I mean. This is my opinion now. It's Nate's opinion time. Writing sad songs, and I love sad songs. Please don't get me wrong. I love bittersweet, and you know, I say it this way a lot. There is, for as many shades of blue that there's at least an equal shade of loneliness. There's all different kinds of lonely, right? And we all feel that. But writing a positive song that is joyful, that is sort of life affirming, for some reason, and I think I know why. I mean, it's literally like a spiritual battle to do that, right? And that was one thing as I was listening to you guys' songs, like, these are positive songs.
Yeah.
I would love to hear you, like, is that like an intentional thing? Like, hey, let's write positive stuff. Or is it just the kind of thing like, man, it's just our love of music and joie de vivre that we just write positive music?
We don't, to be honest with you, we don't really write with intention at all. It's kind of a little bit. Everything is kind of like musically. It's all coming from spontaneous improvisation, and
then just refining what was like.
And refining,
yeah. It's like we basically write the idea. The idea just kind of comes, and then it's just refining it.
It's never like, hey, I need this type of song. I need this type of song.
Yeah, I don't know if I can
maybe that some people can do that, and I envy that, but we're not. That's just when we try to do that and like be very like calculated in what we're going for, it ends up feeling forced, and that's something that we don't.
I would argue that it doesn't even just feel forced. It sounds
forced. You know?
Like you mentioned some. I forget.
Well, he's like the positive thing, but I do think a lot of like we're very optimistic people. You know, I think that comes out. I think, like anyone, we've had our ups and downs in life, especially being musicians. There's plenty of
Yeah, I was really surprised I wasn't rich at this point in my life.
but, I think a lot of it, but we always say it's positive, but it's coming from a place like we've been in some dark places, and this is positivity coming out the other side on some dark stuff. It's not like just blind optimism. It's like, hey, I've been through some stuff and we got out of it.
I also think that part of it is also just that, I don't think I'm ever happier than when I'm writing music or when I'm playing music and when I'm playing shows or I'm in the studio and we're putting a track together. And even if it's about, like, some of the songs aren't about positive things, but they sound really positive still. And I think it's just the love of music that comes out when we play, I think that
because that is the most fun for us. Like, we're looking at guitars and talking about all we do is talk about music.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. I want to ask you a favor. I want you to encourage some young musician or maybe young musicians right now, because there's a lot of guys that are looking at you guys going, man, that's so cool. They're awesome players, and they're a duo, so you guys sort of have most of the band right there, and man, they're getting to write music the way they want to write it, how they want to write it, and they're getting to have their cake and eat it too. But you guys have also done a lot of cover gigs and played a lot of covers. Could you encourage some young musicians out there who may be reluctant, like, I don't want to play covers, I just want to go straight to playing original music? But you guys have paid your dues and you've done the cover gigs, right?
Having to pay the bills made me learn a lot of songs.
Yeah.
As a kid, we're both as you could tell, very ADHD people, and the medicine doesn't help all that much. We're still hyper, and the thing is that I was like that. I spent a lot more time learning my ear. I never learned a complete thing note for note growing up. I learned just enough.
Yeah.
I would transcribe half the solo. I would do this just to get the vocabulary and things. What happened is, I would not I used my ear all the time. I learned to read music, I learned theory, but a lot of it was just learning standards and I was born with perfect pitch, so I would learn stuff by ear, but never note for note, and I would just BS a lot of it. But when I started giving guitar lessons and I had to teach kids songs and they want to learn how to play it, and I started playing cover gigs for money, in college, and it was just like, I probably know close to 1,000 songs, and it made me a better player because it made me understand parts and how to write parts, and there's you just learn different perspectives and how to approach things. It's not just, the language of music, it's notes, harmonies, and rhythm, but learning all the different ways to get to those things. I wish I did it when I was a kid. It was a great education. It's helped me so much.
That's awesome. So go ahead. Yeah.
As a kid too, you learn a lot more. Yeah, music is harmony, it's notes and stuff, but you have to know how to use them. And there's a lot of people that came before you that can teach it, that can help, that you can incorporate their thing into your style, I think that every bass player, go learn some James Jamerson, go learn some Chuck Rainey, go learn some McCartney. You're going to take those things and they're going to make you, it's like you are what you eat. Eat your veggies, you'll be healthy. Learn some tunes. You're going to become better at what you do.
It's just so, and then also trying to have to match their sounds, having to match the tones, because people want to hear this stuff close to note for note. And it's really we just did a gig we play with this Broadway singer named Lena Hall. She's a Tony Award winner. That's one of the things we both do on the side of our thing. And it's we're doing everything from Cats, the Cats soundtrack, to Welcome to the Jungle. And you have to figure out with this one on the same rig, one guitar, how to get all those sounds, and it's in those parts. So it's from two things: learning their tonality, learning how to get their tones, and then also learning how those people write parts. It's such a it's such a valuable thing. I really think, like I said, I wish I did it more as a kid, because it's been the last 10 years of my life. I've done so much of it, and it's made me such a better guitar player.
I think it's definitely made me a better musician.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, you have to learn, like the way, Jordan, I think you said it, learning, from the great people that have come before you. But hey, speaking of dialing in tone.
You need history in your playing. What you got there?
Well, I don't know. Our good buddies over at LSL, they're working on a little something. And am I supposed to show this? Am I letting the cat out of the bag? Am I letting the moon out of the bag here?
I was hoping Johnny would let you know. Well, I think he says it's okay.
He says it's okay?
I think so.
Let's just do it. Whatever. Sometimes it's better ask for forgiveness than permission.
I say that on a daily basis. So, what am I holding here? Can you talk about this?
LSL.
Yeah. Why don't you talk a little bit about your cool? That's a T-bone or no? That's the
a thin bone. And I saw someone this is a thin bone. But I saw someone call it 290 on their Instagram because that's the P90 in the neck, and I have a humbucker. And this is a thin bone. Let's just call it a thin bone. And our friend, a guy we're friendly with, a really good band, Cold Stairs, Chris Tapp. I saw he had an LSL T guitar. And I've known about LSL because I'm a huge Carl Verheyen fan, and that's the one guy I didn't learn note for note, but I tried to copy all that intervallic playing he did.
Oh yeah.
I've known about LSL for years, and so has Jordan, because we've looked at all their guitars. And
we are giant guitar nerds.
We're huge guitar nerds. We like looking at them just as much as playing them.
Same here. Yeah.
And it's a problem. I should probably just play them more. But and I saw Chris had an LSL. He had an LSL he was using for some recording. He posted it on Instagram. I'm like, dude, that LSL. He's like, yeah, I can connect you with them if you want. I'm like, what? So he connected me with Johnny, and I was just like, I'll just get a traditional T guitar. I don't have one of those. I always wanted one. And I'm talking to Johnny, and he's like, no, I want something that you'll play as like your main guitar. For like paraphrasing, that's what he said. I'm like, okay. Well, my favorite guitar I own is I love semi-hollows, even though I'm a rocker, because I love semi-hollows. This is like my 530. This is my favorite guitar I have from Heritage, and I'm like, and I was already kind of doing the thing because I got this idea from Neil Schon, because he had the P90 in the neck and the humbucker and the bridge.
Yep.
And like, that's a great sound. So I'm like, okay, let me do the T-style version of this, and I was like, okay. Let's do the P90 and the humbucker, but let's have it coil split. Because I used to kind of like, oh, don't do those. I don't really like how they sound. And then LSL, I heard some LSL demos with the humbuckers. I'm like, this is actually like incredibly close. That's a sound I'd want to use, because I've had other coil taps.
You use it quite a bit.
I use it I have it split almost as much as I have the humbucker on.
And a lot of people don't give them credit they're really doing something different with pickups. I mean, obviously the T style, S style has been around for a very long time, and they're everywhere, but LSL is its own thing. And until people get one in their hands, it's hard to describe.
They aesthetically look like who, but they're very different. They're very different. So Johnny, he's such a funny guy. I'm like, yeah, how about like a butterscotch? He's like, okay. We could do butterscotch, but what if we had like these metallic flakes under it? I'm like, what's that gonna look like? Do you have a picture? Like, I don't have a picture. I just came up with this. I'm like,
that's a Johnny move right there.
I'm like, funny. You know what? You're too cool to say no to. Let's do it.
Yeah.
You gotta show it.
I don't think you could see it, but in certain lighting, there's these flakes, like it's almost like a Gretsch kind of finish.
Like a gold sparkle.
Like a gold sparkle under. I don't know if you could see it. You got to see in certain lighting.
I don't know if you could. Yeah, I think it's too bright. It's like when you flip it, it's like you could see.
It's really cool, but this guitar, it's like you just can't put this. It came ready to go, and I don't put this down very much.
I'm getting a bass from them pretty soon too.
And I'm already thinking the next thing. I kind of want to do some kind of Nashville tea or something like that. Honestly, he is so patient with me. All I do is text him guitar ideas, and I don't pull the trigger because I don't know what to do.
I text him guitar
I know,
ideas.
but I feel like every 2 weeks I have a new idea of a guitar, and I'm like, I can't afford all of them, so I got to figure out what I'm gonna. I'm gonna order another one soon. These are just they're the best, some of the best playing guitars out there.
Well, speaking of new ideas,
now with the pedal.
Tell us about what this thing is here, because I'm holding the prototype fuzz, and tell us about that.
Okay, well, that's the prototype. We have one in the works right now that's going to have very, very cool artwork. If you want to get an idea of what that's going to look like, just go look through our Instagram page.
So Johnny came to us. He's like, guys, we're working on a fuzz pedal. Here are our songs like Taking It Back, and I've been getting more into fuzz. And he's like, we would love to partner with you on this. Our Moon City Fuzz, it just rolls off. And he sent us, and I've been using a lot of fuzzes for like the Helix and the recordings I've used octave fuzzes and different fuzzes our producer has, and this one it's so easy. I use it a lot for like for rhythms, like our songs Taking It Back. I use that a lot for that. My number one thing live lately with the Moon City Fuzz is my main like basic drive. I use an Analog Man King of Tone. It's the only piece of gear I've had for 10 years. And I use the first channel. I don't use the boost channel. I actually been using that with the Moon City Fuzz, and that's when I want to go full like shred mode. That is just like, because the King of the Tone, I don't use super high gain on, and it's so, I don't know. I've been loving the Moon City Fuzz. I'm using it. We're doing a bunch of new recording right now, and I'm going to be tracking it for solos, riffs, and it's just becoming an essential part of my guitar sound.
I was just going to ask you what's next for Moon City, and so you guys are working on a new project already?
Yeah, we're recording a whole other EP right now.
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, we want to get right to it, and we're feeling creative. This new music's really funky. It's really, really funky.
Definitely leaning more into the funkier kind of side of our sound. That's just kind of where we've been going.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm super excited for people to hear what you're doing, and I hope, to all my Chords and Coffee family watching this, I hope you guys are feeling just the explosive energy off of these guys. It's so refreshing to number one, hear songs that have great chord structure, song after song, and really cool riffs and lots of parts, and it's not hard to listen to. It's easy to listen to, and it's encouraging, and it's uplifting, and it's also the joy is infectious. And the God's honest truth is that that's not something you're readily going to find when you just start looking for music, and you have it in the Moon City Masters. And you guys, I'm just really, really blessed and encouraged that you take time to come visit with me. And I would love to just throw this out to you. If you could encourage anybody right now, maybe there's somebody that's been playing guitar for a while and they're just not as far along as they'd like, or maybe they're looking at your life going, gosh, I would give anything to be where they're at, or whatever the case may be. They're a musician out there that needs encouragement. Could you just take just a few seconds and just encourage the folks out there?
When you're a musician, even us, there's always people further along. I really had to, especially with social media, everyone's life looks like it's way more crazy cool than it actually is. Focus on your own thing. You may have an overall goal, but think in steps. It's a huge thing I'm trying to do. What do I want to accomplish in the next 2 months? It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So focus on that, and honestly, just have fun. This is a passion, so especially when the double-edged sword of being a full-time musician is, just remember, we're so lucky we get to do this. It's even if it's your job, just stay excited about it.
The positivity a lot comes from there's been a lot of darkness too. Everybody's had darkness in their life, and if I had my way, no one would have to experience that. But part of what brings on such joy is when you know those hard times. Now, as far as reaching your goals as a musician, you know, as someone who's been teaching, I've been teaching a lot of lessons, you know, my entire adult life. And the main thing that I always tell people is like, just do it a little bit every day. You're better off getting 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, rather than like, hey, I played guitar once or bass or whatever instrument 3 hours this week. And honestly, I want to mention, because we get a lot of comments on our singing too. Like if you're trying to become a singer, you're like, oh, I'll never have that range. I didn't have that range either. You have to, uncommon belief, but it's true. You aren't just born with a voice that can belt. You have to do it every day. And that's every instrument. You just have to, what is your goal? Don't focus on being everything.
Because no one can do everything.
No one can do everything. And if you are...
Except Steve Lukather.
Yeah, and what is the music you truly like to listen to? Make that your goal. Do it a little bit, put it in your calendar, a time to do it, like 10 minutes every day. Be consistent. And as much as it's hard, just try to remember that like social media is literally everybody telling you the coolest, greatest thing that's happening in their life at that moment. Sometimes there's space between them. Everything looks a lot more glamorous. Focus in on you. Like take what you can and learn from other people, but focus in on your goals, you know?
Yeah. Well, guess what? I'm going to tell you right now.
Keep playing. That's it.
That's right. Play. Keep playing. And
it's from Palen. Yeah. Actually do that. Seriously, do that. Or LSL or Heritage. One of those. Those are really good.
I'm going to have the Moon City Masters back on Chords and Coffee for dang sure. If you're ever down in this neck of the woods, you have to let me know, because I would love to do like an in-person thing. And I want everybody on Chords and Coffee right now to go to Spotify and go watch, listen, learn, and just enjoy Taylor and Jordan, the Moon City Masters. They're just a great band. They're great guys. Guys, we got a saying around here in Chords and Coffee. We're living life the best we can with the guitar in our hand. We do this every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Central Time. Thank you so much for being on, guys. I love you.
Oh, you rock,
Much
mate.
love
Thank
to
you,
man. Thank you.
All right, Chords and Coffee friends. We'll see you next Saturday.